It's that time where we bring you some of the stories that made it to select national newspapers this morning. And to begin, we start with the Daily Trust. And the Daily Trust is staying with the issue of fuel scarcity. NLC, Nasima, others demand petrol price hike reversal. Increase will hurt business, worsen inflation. Citizens urge government to reconsider. Dangote refinery rolls out PMS silent on cost. To get the details of all of these dynamics, please buy today's Daily Trust paper and open to page 4. And there you'll find also the picture there of the Vice President Kashim Shettima, flanked by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar and Governor Diko Umaru Rada of Katsina State at the burial of the late President Umar Musa Yar'Adua's mother, shortly there before she was lowered into her grave. And to other stories, directly below the name marks, we have Shettima, Atiku, Barau, Obi, others strong Katsina for Yar'Adua's mother's burial. Emir Sanusi profiles solution to Fulani crisis in Nigeria. You find that on page 31. Nigeria-China sign MOU as Tinubu meets Xi Jinping. Provide solution to power crisis, NEC tells Discos. You find that on page 23. We are in Sokoto to eliminate bandits, and that's coming from Matawale, Minister of State for Defense. And bad governance protest, court issues arrest warrant against Britain, others. And the second major story there on the front page, Yobe buries 34 victims of ISWAP attack. Terrorists give reasons for killings, and General Akilu recommend IBB security strategy to tackle banditry and kidnapping. We move on to the Punch newspaper this morning, and it is staying with the fuel price hike. Labour demands reversal, set to meet. Marketers await Dangote's refinery pricing template as NNPCL emerge sole buyer. Hunger protests, police squeeze staff of wanted Britain. PDP governors knock Wike, says Fubara, Rivers party's leader. Power generation hits 5,330 megawatts, first time in 3 years. And you find pictures there of the front page of Africa's richest man, flanked by David Davunkruma and the daughter, who is also an executive director in that company, right there displaying the products from the refinery. Oyo Monarch Council Vice Chair tackles shame over Ogbomoso's chief imam. And fleeing buttock enlargement doctor now in custody. And we also have 34 Yobe villagers killed by Boko Haram get mass burial. We move on to Liberty newspaper this morning. And there on the front page, Nigerians lament as petrol price hits 1,200 per litre in Kano, 855 at NNPC stations. And to other stories, fuel price hike, NANS to commence protest September 15th. We are proposing law to increase VAT to 10%, Presidential Tax Committee. Dangote refinery to supply 25 million liters per day of petrol in September. And this is coming from the Nigerian Midstream Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. Owando joined trillion naira exclusive companies club. You get all these details when you get to this Liberty. We move on to the Daily Times. And on the front page of the Daily Times, it is staying with the NNPC situation. It says, outrage as NNPC raises petrol price to 855 per litre. Experts demand incentive to help citizens grapple with hardship. You have betrayed Nigerians, NNPC tells Tinubu. And to other story, President Tinubu meets Chinese leader Xi Jinping as Nigeria-China elevate ties. Equity market shed 1.12 trillion in 2 months amidst rising interest rate. Matawale charges troops to flush out bandits in the northwest. Refund tour operators deposit before 2025 licenses bidding. And food security, NIMED DG Anosike canvasses farmers insurance in Nigeria. And Wike's statement, irresponsible, unacceptable, PDP governors. Now we'll move on to the Daily News Hope. And right there on the front page, Daily News Hub, I mean to say, right there on the front page of the Daily News Hub, we have the story, NNPCL adjusts pump price to 800 as Dangote refinery begins local production. To other stories, we didn't ask NNPCL to increase petrol price to 1,000 naira. This is coming from the federal government. And to other stories there on the front page, why we carried out Yobe mass killing. ISWAP, police name David Hondoin, Michael Alade as PDOM's accomplices. Tinubu meets with Chinese president. Nigeria military capable of containing banditry like insurgency. General Marwa, don't be partisan, it will hurt you. Fubara tells River Commissioner of Police officers. Your Yaradwa's mother's funeral, Barrow leads senators to Katsina. And gunmen bomb police division headquarters, kill corporal in Anambra. It feels good being here. Osimhen speaks on Galatasaray's move. Your comment, irresponsible PDP governors reply, Wike. All right, we now have joining us via Zoom today, as it were, Mr. Ben Sherman, former director of news of the Voice of Nigeria. Good morning.
Morning, my people. How do you do?
Very well, thank you. Today you have decided to leave me alone in the studio, but that's fine. We understand the full situation, and they seem to be biting everybody.
Well,
what's important?
Now you are seeing what. Now you are seeing what I'm seeing.
Yes. All right. Almost all the papers are reporting the situation with what appears to be the drama around fuel prices and fuel availability yesterday. At the same time as when we seem to be getting our maiden product, maiden PMS products from the Dangote refinery. What sense did you make of all the developments that took place yesterday?
Honestly, it's like one's happiness is snatched. Here we are, we've been around without adequate supply of fuel, even when people are ready to buy. The day Dangote will roll out its product and giving Nigerians an assurance, Africans, the international community, that all is going to be well. Suddenly we are seeing an increase in pump prices in Nigeria. What really are we saying? What really are we doing? Is it that some people are bent on either running down this government, or there's just that deliberate effort to a kind of ensure that the government does not exist or succeed? Is it calculated to ensure that Nigerians are kept in a situation of perpetuity? I mean, problems here and there. So it's such a serious thing.
And interesting. I mean, how you were able to wrap all that up. Same yesterday, we were greeted with other bad news. We saw two burials. One, the bodies of 34 persons that were attacked by ISWAP in Yobe. At the same time, we also saw the burial of the mother of the late President Yar'Adua. What do you make of the escalating insecurity situation in the Northeast?
Well, you see, honestly, security, like it said, it's everybody's business. All hands will have to be on deck. And I can see Lamido Sanusi, he said that if government wants him to go into it, he would go into it. I am not sure if Gumi took permission from government to try whatever he tried. But if Sanusi feels he can play a role, why not? During a war, anything that could be used, any instrument that could be used, either lethal or kinetic, or you use the carrot approach, why not? So if by force we can't have the peace, we go back to the table. And for the mother of the late President Yaradua, I can see that her death unified quite a lot of our politicians. I could see Atiku, I saw the vice president, they all were in the same vehicle. One was wondering what they were discussing, discussing Nigeria or discussing their personal issues. Was that a kind of a unifying point where people will say, look, how do we get it right? If in mourning we can come together, so why don't we, at the point of peace, we should be able to do things and get them right. So may her soul rest in peace, but her death appears to be bringing political actors into one space, as we can see. Also, may her soul rest in peace.
All right. Yesterday we saw pictures, images from China of how the president was received and the MOUs that were signed in the area of corporations, in media, in telecommunications, another area. What do you make of the president's visit to China amidst all that we were told he will be engaging during the period of the visit?
Yeah, you see, Sunday, for now, China appears to be the only country, I'll put it that way in my own opinion, that appears to be investing in what you call a risky environment. Because where are the Americans in terms of the railway network? Where are the Britons when it comes to networking this country via telecommunication? Even what you call the oil sector, you see that many of them are pulling out of Nigeria. But if China says they'll come in, okay, why not? After when the insurgency started, you could see that when Goodluck Jonathan was looking for arms here and there, our own South Africa even refused to sell arms to us. So if China will do it, so be it. But we are also worried again when it comes to the investment climate. When we're talking of killings here and there, when we're talking of kidnapping here and there, government, I think that we should look inwards first. How do we tackle this insecurity to ensure that, people should live in peace, even if it's restive. Some peace that you just say, okay, it's manageable peace, because insecurity or peace does not look. In as much as there are arms carrying people, threatening people, then there's no peace. In as much as you want to travel, you begin to say, God, unto you I surrender. It's good to worship God, but at a point we should worship God peacefully. Not that some very terrible conditions should make us remember God. In peacetime, that's also the best time to even worship God because we have peace. But yes, it's good for him to have gone to China, but we still have to do a lot back home to ensure that the investment climate is good for the Chinese, is good for us. And remember, Adams Oshomole, as a point, even raised an observation that many of the engineers the Chinese bring to Nigeria to work for us are mostly prisoners. Instead of them to remain in prison, cage, and being fed free, it was for them to come and do their prison terms through their hard labor here in Nigeria. If you check, they hardly talk with people, they don't play, they're always too serious and all that stuff. So it means that that same thing you call transfer of technology will not be done effectively because the engineers, as they claim to be, are not being found anywhere. Recall, Sunday, that during the coronavirus, against all odds, airports, everything shut down, but a team, they came from China and landed. Where are those people? You ask questions, you don't get any answer. Where are they? So are they part of these so-called engineers that will just come as prisoners or something? So Adams Oshimole knows better, but we are just mirrors of society. And so we report what authorities are saying. And as a lawmaker, a distinguished lawmaker, a labor leader, a governor, former, and all that stuff, I think that what he said, government should look at it seriously so that there's this transfer of technology. Where are our engineers, the technicians? They ought to have been taught many of these things. When the railway goes bad, we are still seeing the Chinese being brought to fix all of that. So if at the point of right from scratching of the ground, the Nigerian engineers were involved. The moment we have issues, there will be the Nigerian engineers will take over. But we're still seeing that Chinese are being brought to handle all of this. And it also reminds us about the aeroplanes, jets being hijacked or kidnapped, do I call it? Let me call it kidnapped by a Chinese businessman who is always claiming that there were some arrangements with Ogun State and the guarantee was the federal government. So is it that Tinubu is going to just beg, or how is this going to be done? So quite a lot of things to be handled in China between Xi Jinping and President Tinubu of Nigeria.
All right. I like the fact that you took your time on that question, especially given the kind of prospect that we'd expect from China. Yesterday, we were told in the front newspaper, Sarada, the Punch is reporting that power generation touched 5,300 megawatts for the first time in 3 years. We were told a couple of days ago as well that the transmission company of Nigeria now has the capacity to evacuate 6,000 megawatts. Because of the upgrade of their system. Is this something we should celebrate?
Well, I would just say, okay, a drop in the ocean. To get such a little figure is okay, but one is worried that Nigeria, a country of over 200 million people, we are busting and hitting our chest that we are generating 5,000 megawatts of electricity. That is just really a drop in the ocean compared with what we need for industries. For example, how much of that will go for manufacturing? Then you're talking of government setups, federal government, states, local governments. How much of that will be given to them? You now talk of I mean, civilians, or in fact even military setups, because there has to be some areas where you don't take light at all. Look at hospitals. You don't need to take light at all in those areas. You now come to residential areas. In terms of residential, those you say rural, when they say rural, at the point those people, when you take light, they are not bothered. It is there, they are not bothered. At the point, they are also being accused of not paying electricity by passing meter and all that stuff. So I'm not too sure it is such a very big leap forward, but somehow, I mean, it is a step that is positive. And if they sustain and maintain the momentum, that will be okay. Because a situation where constantly we hear there's too much water in the that has affected the dam and water supply, then there is a problem. At the point they say the water is too low. So whichever, there's always a room to lay complaints, just like the oil sector. I said there is hoarding. There is product tankers are refusing to pick the product. Or you go to depot, no, there's a crisis. Nigerians will always have some problem. There was this other one, they said there was scarcity simply because schools have resumed. So there's an increase in parents moving to school to pick children. Quite a lot of complaints that you just say, okay, it looks like we should tell the stories to some kindergarten schools or some pupils in some nursery one or so.
All right. Yesterday we saw Matawali, as long as beside the chief of army staff. The chief of defense staff arrived Sokoto yesterday, and he's been talking about flushing out a bandit. I'm sure you saw video clips of him, of how he arrived like some field marshal, coming to rid Sokoto free, of banditry. With all of the development we have seen recently and comments coming from the government quarters, is this something that should engender any kind of hope if you were a Sokoto person this morning?
Yes, I think it should engender some hope, because Nigerians have been calling, look, why is it that these incessant killings are just continuing unabated? And if the government therefore feels, look, let us move to the theater or epic center of this crisis, why not? But I think that in as much as they're landing in Sokoto, there should be deployments simultaneously in Zamfara. There should be in Kaduna. There should be in Katsina. There should be in Yobe, where you just saw the killings and being claimed by Iswa that they carried out those attacks. So if you don't do one single, same kind of one-stop shop kind of deployment, I mean simultaneously, the same time, the same hour, okay, when the heat is much in Sokoto, they go to Zamfara. It's much in Zamfara, they shift to Katsina. I think that there has to be a kind of a unified kind of approach to it. But it is a good thing that the authorities are responding this way. It's nice that a civilian, okay, let's move on. I will not just talk in Abuja here and say military go. Military come, let's go. And they have simply gone. So at any rate, we also think that Nigerians are just killing Nigerians. Why don't we simply go to the negotiation table and find out what and the way out of this matter? As I'm talking to you in my areas around Mancho, Bondon, Chika, Manyeten and all that, you see that crops are being hacked. I mean, they are just being destroyed. Cows are marching all over the place. I foresee a bigger crisis also in those areas. These are things that people can come together and see how do we resolve all these crises. So if the force is not going to work, why don't we just simply talk it over and this matter ends?
Like the choice of words, Nigerians are just killing Nigerians. Some of the papers are also reporting that the Presidential Tax Committee is proposing the increment of VAT from the current 7.5% to 10%, and they are even saying that a bill to that effect will be submitted to the National Assembly soon. In the face of all of the increases Nigerians are enduring, what is your 2 cents of this new proposition?
Yeah, when you say VAT, value added tax, at the point some people will say VAT belongs to the very high in society. I tell you, it has to go down. It will affect everybody. If you say, okay, in order to pay for so thing, let's say you need to contribute to police fund, for example, every liter of petrol you have to pay 1 kobo from it, just 1 kobo. So, of course, the cost of bridging will increase, cost of supply will increase. If you now say, okay, cigarette, for example, it falls under very, very high value added kind of thing. You pay because it's just part of enjoyment. You are just doing that. You can even do without the cigarette. You pay heavily, but you just check that. You just see that all those who bring them, there are ways they'll transfer that value added taxation onto the consumer. You go to GSM services, for example, you say you're going to pay so amount because it's part of luxury. They'll just transfer that to the consumer. And how will they do it? Just increase why this you make some calls, you see that your airtime is going, yet you are not hearing anything. They're already recouping that money from that value added and to give government. So whatever way you take it, whichever way you take it, Nigerians will suffer. I mean, the very common man will suffer because, I mean, even if you were to say aeroplane, come, if you are importing this the value tax you're going, then the man will pay and transfer it to the customer, to the passengers. So whichever way you're looking at it, the masses will suffer. The developed world has a way of doing services to their people. Why is it that in Britain you just see that they reduce what you call taxes, they give incentives, they give all sorts of palliatives to ensure prices do not go high. But with us, the moment IMF comes, they will just come here with their suit and tie, with some portfolios. They give us some tablets, we just take them. It's a kind of, we are so drunk, we don't even know what we are doing because of IMF conditionalities that we are just taking hook, line, and sinker. Why is Britain not talking about the IMF the way we are talking about? Why is America not doing all of that? We borrow, and borrow. Then you go to the World Trade Organization. What is it? You see, if you have to import, you have to create anything here, they come buy the raw materials. They say you have to fling our gates open. They'll come and buy the raw materials, carry, go and manufacture, bring them back for us to buy as our finished products. And if we want to manufacture here, the cost of a machine that we're going to import, okay, the value added will grab that money. Now, you want to bring the experts. Oh, you are bringing experts. They have to pay this and pay that because before they come in. So quite a lot of hurdles when it comes to all this kind of taxation. And that's why also some companies, when they come in, we also say, oh, going to give you some incentives. For the next 2 months, 3 months, 1 year, 3 years, no taxation. They'll make their money, make it very well. And when they've seen that they've made maximum profit, it's at that time they reduce even their workforce, so that even when they want to go, it does not matter anything. They've got whatever they want. They move to another country. So it's a whole lot of things that we have to look at. Our industrialists, we have to look at that, and even look at even this inflation.
Yes.
Just last month, Britain decided to inject £3 million worth of coins, and the economy, shut up. It went up, so to speak, the value of the pounds, because of that injection of 3 million worth of coins, hearing King Charles. But in our own case, the highest denomination you ever see is 1,000 naira. Which economy runs that way? Which economy? You can't see the 100 naira. You can't see 200 naira. You can't see 50 naira. All you see is 1,000 in bundles here and there. Kidnappers are even having a problem. You see them dragging and even snapping to disgrace us. I'm afraid this is what we are.
We have overshot the time allowed for this segment. I'm afraid we would have to anchor at this point. I want to thank you very much for finding time to join us in spite of all of the challenges that we are battling with at the moment.
Well, it's part of the value-added service.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We've been talking with Mr. Ben Sherman, former director of Voice of Nigeria. They're bringing us his perspective on the issues that made it to the front page of the newspaper this morning. And that's the much that we have time for this morning. I hope we have brought values to your living room. And thank you very much for granting us free access. It's been a wonderful show with you, and let's do this again tomorrow. I am Sunday Michael Ogu, and 360 Sports is next. Please don't go away.